Welcome to Wildspire. You get to be a fly on the wall for my intimate conversations with entrepreneurs who are changing the world. I'm your host, Stephanie Benedetto, coach, storyteller, and unmarketer at The Awakened Business, helping coaches and change-making entrepreneurs unleash their inspired message and share it with playful unmarketing. I'll ask curious questions and explore uncharted waters with my guest today. Anything can happen when we step into the unknown of infinite creativity, and that's where we're going to play. My guest today is John Orian. He was introduced to me through a mutual connection, and when I saw the name of his business, I knew he was someone I needed to talk to because his business name includes two of my most favorite words ever. It's called PlayAtCreation. John and I have a very interesting exploration of purpose and go on a deep dive into what we really are, one of my favorite explorations ever, and how that makes life so much more fun. Let me tell you a bit more about John Orian. John has been playing his venture, PlayAtCreation, since 2015 as his primary game for the second half of his life. He, quote-unquote, retired early, just before turning 60, knowing he'd need to create a means of paying his own way in retirement. He focused on PlayAtCreation, not having any idea how it would generate the needed income. However, he felt it was the right thing to do, the more important thing, to spread the message that we are here to play and to create. John believes that operating your own venture is the best way to place yourself in the path of the kinds of experiences that are really important to you, the ones you've decided will make you happy. It's the best way to have a life worth living. The outcome he's aiming for with PlayAtCreation is to have 1,000 ventures created by people inspired and supported by them, so that when they're reminiscing about this turn on Earth, each of those 1,000 venture creators says to him, "Wow, John, that was great. I'm so glad you got me to do that. I had a blast. Let's go do it again." Gives you a sense of the spirit of my guest today. Without further ado, John Orian. Hi, John, and welcome to the Wildspire podcast. I'm very pleased to have you as my guest today. Thanks for coming.
Thanks, Stephanie. Thanks for the invitation. I'm really excited to talk to you. Who knows where this is going to go? And for people who are listening, be ready for a ride.
Well, you have some of my favorite words on your t-shirt. And this is how I knew immediately. This is the name of one of your ventures, at least, right? PlayAtCreation. Play.
Yes.
And creation. That's a good filler word for things, but it's not one of my favorites. But play and creation, oh my goodness. So what does that mean to you? And how did that come to be the name of this venture? Do you want to tell me a little bit about that?
Yes. Yeah. So this is going back, wow, it's almost a decade when I was thinking about, what I was going to be doing, because I retired back in 2012, knowing that I would have to get re-engaged and do something to pay my way in retirement. And even that word I don't use. I use rejuvenation. I tell people who are 60, 65 that you're going to live to 100. You got like 30, 40 years. What are you going to do with that? Anyway, at that time, I was thinking about, what am I going to do? And this idea of why we are here on Earth is to play and create. And we can get into that about why, where that comes from. But anyway, this was to be a message for me to spread on a blog or something like that, to tell everybody that the reason you're here, your purpose is simply to play on Earth this time. The other one was going to be a project management thing. I was going to teach people how to do project management and so on. And it was like, no, it's more important to do this. I had no idea how this was going to actually, pay my way in retirement, but it was the important thing to do. So I said, okay, fine. And then even the PlayAtCreation was it play and create, play? Yeah. So in fact, the more important piece is the play. The create got added on at the back end. But play at what? Well, just go make stuff, find something to do and go do it. You're here on Earth, got so much opportunity. What do you want to do? Let's go play. So anyway, that's how it came to be, PlayAtCreation, why I selected to do this. And I mean, it's been the right thing to do because everything becomes so much lighter. This idea of we're here, we sparks of consciousness are here to play. It frees you up to do so many things. You don't have to be the expert when you start something. And we'll get into some of the initiatives, games that we're playing at.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry, did that answer, did that give you a sense of why PlayAtCreation?
Yeah, absolutely. And I feel that too. I think, and I can't remember exactly who it was that said you need to talk to John. It was either Tad Hargrave from Marketing for Hippies or Alex Baisley of the Big Dream. Oh gosh, it was either one of them or maybe both. And they said, oh, you have so much in common. You need to talk to him. And I visited your site. And as I said, my favorite words there, it feels to me like the universe is playing through us, through all the experiences that we have. And that if I could say the universe wants anything, that's what it wants. It wants to play and create. And this seems to be what we naturally do. So like, yes, the more people who
I
are,
use the word consciousness rather than the universe, because I think of the universe, the physical universe, as the game board that consciousness created to
yes,
play in.
yes, I like that. I like that a lot. Yes. So I feel very excited to hear more about your creations and what you're doing with people. So you had mentioned when we were messaging beforehand that you have 3 different ventures that are blossoming at the same time, which does not surprise me in the sense of the way it seems consciousness plays is across the whole of our being. So, and there are seasons, like there are seasons in nature, and sometimes things are just a popping all over the place. Like I used to be in the wedding industry, and I would see young couples who were getting married, graduating from school, moving to a new place, starting a new career, like all at the same time. And it was not a coincidence. It's actually like the blossoming happens, and it happens everywhere. So anyway, not to put that upon your situation, but would you like to tell me a little bit about these 3 ventures and what's happening?
So it's like, and I think of my apple tree out there. When I planted it, it was a skinny little thing, and it took a while for it to root itself and for it to start growing and then start bearing fruit. So it takes time. Just like pregnancy takes time, 9 months, you can't speed it up. Any venture, any project you create takes time from when you first plant the seed to when things start happening. So, I mean, I mentioned earlier that I planted the PlayAtCreation seed. It's going back to like 2015, but I kicked it off, even though I'd been thinking about it before. And, you know, trying to do things and coming up with, well, how should I do this? I remember like the very first workshop that I ran through PlayAtCreation was a workshop called Your Venture, Your Game. And in it, I promised that people at the end of 3 months would have a venture up and running. And that was so ridiculously naive to think that at the end of it, how are you going to do this? You go, whoa, okay, so that didn't work. So then we tried a year-long thing. And then I said, well, that's too long to have people, and it was called Your Venture, Your Game. So that was too long to have people commit for the solution was to chop it up into 3 pieces. The first part was to envision or dream. Second part was to design the venture that's going to give you the experiences you've chosen. The third part was to actually create that. And who I was were boomers who were at retirement, just about to retire, or just recently retired. There was one of the insurance companies in the States did a study, and they found that the honeymoon period of retirement lasts 18 to 24 months. Okay, so when people retire, especially if they had a really intense job, maybe something that they didn't like, but it was really eating them up. When they retire, they go, "Oh, I can play and I can travel, I can do all this stuff." But at about 18 months to 24 months is when this thing, is that all there is? There must be more. And it's in fact that there must be more is what I've been saying is, well, yeah, you need to be engaged with life. You cannot just sit on the beach drinking. If you decide that that's what retirement's going to be, you're going to be dead in 2 or 3 years. I mean, that's it. And especially because you're going to live like 30 or 40 years, you need to create something that you can, that'll pay your way in retirement, but more importantly, that has you engaged with life, with others around you. So anyway, I'm getting off into a tangent, but so we started this, and it was about 3 or 4 years ago, I guess, that one of these three initiatives got kicked off. So I play ukulele, and back in 2018, I was just learning, and I had gone to an in-person festival from a group here in Calgary that was putting it on, and I knew how much effort it took. So when they were going to do it the next year, I said, "Sure, I'll help." And I ended up, so I met Louise there. Louise, I was on my advisory board for the third iteration of the workshop. She took the dream pieces a couple of times, and I said, "Louise, this is you should make UQuest your venture." Well, she took dream a couple of times. Finally, she says, "Okay, John, I'll do that, but I want you to come with me." So, okay, I'll help. I mean, we get along really well. So UQuest became a venture on its own, aside from call, back in 2021. In 2020, we had been meeting in person to jam and so on in a room in what used to be an elementary school here in Calgary. We got to be like 70 people meeting in that room after the second in-person festival. So we expanded it, and I started what was called the Blues Sessions in November of 2019. Then, of course, COVID hit in 2020, and we couldn't in person anymore. So we said, let's go online. And I'd been using Zoom for the creation labs and stuff like this. So I was quite comfortable. So we went online, found that we couldn't jam over Zoom just because of the lag in the software. So we ended up teaching. What's happened, it's been wonderful because everybody's musicality has risen because we've been learning a lot more. Anyway, every year around June or July, we go, "Oh, are we going to keep doing this?" Because it's a lot of work. However, we keep getting people to say, "Oh, you don't know what this means to me." You know, like, especially when people couldn't get out for COVID, this was where they stayed connected to people. It was so nice to come together every Saturday morning, seeing my friends there, we connect, and you got to keep doing this. So of course we go, we'll do it for another year, and then this June, we were thinking the same thing. And because one of the other initiatives was free, and okay, well, yeah, okay, we'll do it in 24. But if we're going to do it, we're going to go big. So UQuest, which started in Calgary for our local people here to go online, gradually evolved from Calgary to Southern Alberta, to all of Alberta, to Canada. And now we're going global. We, in fact, made the decision to advertise in Ukulele Magazine. Again, like kids playing, saying, "Yeah, let's do that. Let's put on a show." We decided to advertise, not knowing all of the stuff that we had to do because of that decision. So the blossoming is, you know, the UQuest website, we had to get so much stuff ready for that. We ended up hiring a copywriter who was looking at this in a totally different view than we had. And she was like outside the jar reading the stuff. And so asking us questions about what about this, what about that, came up with wonderful stories and so on. And so that's the blossoming of UQuest. Okay, we're going from 8 instructors to 16 instructors. We're talking about maybe doing a sea cruise next year. Who knows where this is going to go? But anyway, we're going global. That's one. talked about the reason that we were I was trying to get some time away from Uke West, because last year when I was in a course through a company called Miracy, which is based in Montreal, I met a fellow by the name of Tom Gledhill, who was in Cape Cod. He was taking the same course. And he related to me a statistic. He was a business broker at one point, had been a business owner, was a business broker. And he said, John, you wanted to talk because, when I'm talking about boomers retiring and so on, he said, John, there are a lot of boomers who own businesses. And for them to retire, they have to sell the business. However, only 20% of small businesses offered for sale actually sell. 80% get shuttered. And I'd been saying to him, one of the ways I had envisaged boomers starting ventures is that they would, because we know where the problems are, know how we would solve them, we would start a venture. But the idea is that we would hire in young people and teach them how to make that venture successful. And it became successful. The boomer, the graybeard, would get paid a stipend to be the Gandalf of that new company. And so he picked up and he says, what if we got the boomer owners of small businesses who can't sell these businesses to transfer the ownership to them who are typically is younger than they are, but maybe have been working with them for a long time. So in fact, Exit Plus, the evolution of PlayAtCreation to a much narrower focus, was born a year ago when Tom and I said, yeah, we should do this. What should we, we'll call it Exit Plus. He already had a company called Exit Pros. And we go, actually, we need to do this. So it's a three-part operation. We have to make the business actually saleable. And typically businesses have not been selling. They are wrapped around the boomer owner. So we have to make the business stand on its own. We have to get the key employees to think in terms of being owners rather than employees. And we have to get the boomer owner to be looking ahead to what's possible for them, in the next 30, 40 years, rather than what they're leaving behind. Because they've had, really nice businesses and so on. But, and this is actually a term that I heard once we got into this, the idea of seller's remorse, where when they sell the business, they go, oh man, what did I do? I had such a good thing going over there. And now who am I? Without my business, without being VP of this, without being chief of that, who am I really? And that's where I come in. So what Tom and I have brought together, Tom is the business broker, business owner, looking at the business and stuff. I'm looking at the boomer and who are you and what's next for you? How are you going to savor life? How, when you are on your deathbed, do you get to say to yourself, wow, that was such a good turn. I really loved all the stuff that I did. And that's what I want people to have, is that there are no regrets. That was good. It's like, it's when you play a good game of football or something and you just enjoy the game. I use the example of, and I don't climb mountains, but when you are climbing a mountain, I've done it, in contained spaces and stuff for this, but not out in the wild. But when you climb a mountain, you have to be 110% holding onto the cliff. If not, you're going to fall out. But that's when you're fully alive, right? And you're getting to the top. And you get to the top, and it's been very hard. You get to the top, and you go, yeah, I did that. But 5 minutes later, you're looking at, what's the next one to do? The exhilaration, the enjoyment, the savoring has happened while you're there. Is that until you've actually completed it and you go, wow, that was really good. Let's go on to the next one. We're always looking for the next challenge, the next game, right? Because we want to play. That's the second initiative. The third one, which is blossoming, was actually started before I started PlayAtCreation. And I was still working, and the company I was working for had bought another company. And Chris came over. He was the CEO of the other company. And we were talking one day, and I had already been thinking about why am I living in this cold environment, Calgary, when I come from India and I want to be back in the warmth? So I asked Chris, I said, Chris, do you know anybody down in South America that, I could talk to about the possibilities of setting up a home base down there? I asked that question. 2 hours later, Chris is still talking to me about the stuff that's going on because a fellow from his church had gone down to Costa Rica and had started a little real estate development down there and had offered Chris the opportunity to take on one hillside. And so we said, we should do that. Why don't we do that? So we did. We said, okay, well, we'll try it. It has to be all cash. We aren't going to go into debt and stuff for this, but we'll play and we'll see what will happen. Now, so this is going back to 2011 when we said, yeah, let's do this. And me, naive guys, well, yeah, we'll do this. And a couple of years later, we'll have done this first project and we decide if we want to do it again. Wow. It takes a long time to get stuff done in Costa Rica. For instance, when you want to put in a road, you need to cut it in and then let it sit. And you have to let the rains come down and see what it does. And then you fix it up and you do it again. So back in 2014, I guess we put in the infrastructure halfway down the hill. We sold one of the lots. That's enough. Boogie and his wife bought a place there. The connection, we'll get to that some other time. Anyway, so Boogie built a place and then nothing happened. Chris and Warren, the other partner, and myself, and their wives, everybody was working up here. And then 2015 is when I said I got really busy with PlayAtCreation. So kind of took my mind off Altos de Antigua, which is down in Costa Rica. However, last year we said, okay, we need to finish the rest of it so that people can actually see that this is a real thing. So we started that whole process, and about a month and a half ago, I guess, we got the roads and the power and the water and stuff put into the rest of the hill. And so now we said, okay, we need to start marketing this for real this time, not just leaving it out there. So in fact, in October, Chris and Warren and myself are going back down to Costa Rica. We're going to be shooting video and photographs and putting together packages for each of the lots so that we can update the website. So this is the third thing that, there's stuff to do now. And it's going to be fun. I mean, I'm not sure what's going to happen. Chris and Warren will stay down there for a week with me. We'll do the work, the videos and stuff, talk to the accountants, the new accountants that we've hired. And then I'm going to stay there for another couple of weeks. The idea being that we'll invite people, like people who want to potentially buy stuff there. I say, well, no, you have to come down and boots on the ground, walk the land, see what it feels like. Is this really for you or not? And we also look at them because one of the decisions we made very early on is that we're not going to sell to just anybody. They have to be people that we would want to be neighbors with. Because what I want to attract down there is people who have this global mindset. I want people to be able to run global businesses from the hills of Costa Rica because we got fiber into the lots. So you were talking about having to share the signal, and so the size of the pipe goes down as you get more people involved, unless you got something like fiber. I had the same thing happen when I retired and we went to France. We were in the countryside, and I was trying to download a TED Talk, and those 18-minute TED Talks, and it took hours because we were at the end of the line, and when everybody else would get on, it would just crawl. So anyway, in the hills of Costa Rica, I had better signal, a bigger pipe than I had in France. And even now, I'm going to have fiber there when we go down. So it'll be really cool. The internet infrastructure has been built out. When I was in France last year, I was actually running UQuest stuff from France. The Saturday morning sessions I was talking about. So I would kick it off in France in the evening and do the webinars, and everything was great. And it was really cool to have our members here saying, "Oh, John, so where are you now?" Because I don't recognize the background. Well, no, that's because I'm here. And in October, I'll be saying the same thing. Where are you now, John? I'm down in Costa Rica. So anyway, long story of the three initiatives blossoming at the same time. And what I wanted to talk to you about today is the impact of that happening, the impact on me. Because when this started happening, I was going, oh man, I've got so much to do. And I mean, the last 2.5 months has been, I've spent a lot of time with UQuest getting the stuff ready for when the hordes of people would come from the ads that we placed in the UQuest magazine. That's not happening just yet because people don't know about us yet. That'll come. But then I reminded myself, John, this is exactly what you wanted for yourself. You wanted to have these fun and meaningful ventures, projects that you could play with. You didn't manage them so well, and they're all coming together at the same time. But that's okay. We will wrap up the Costa Rican project, once we sell the lots. UQuest is going to become steadier now that all the stuff is input, and Exit Plus then is going to blossom. As we tell people about, boomer owners, you need to sell your business so that you can retire. However, there are a lot of people who are trying to do that right now. A way that you can get that done. And who knows where that'll go. We'll see. You meet such good people. In fact, that was one of the reasons I wanted to have people create fun and meaningful ventures or projects, is it puts you at the crossroads of meeting so many new people, both people that you will collaborate with, your co-creators, people that you would employ or contract with to deliver, as well as the clients that you'll serve, and help them just blossom and enjoy life. Wow, I've been talking a lot, Stephanie.
You have a lot on, John. This is wonderful.
I do.
Yeah.
I do. That's great.
So I'm wondering, so you said, you reminded yourself, this is what you asked for. You asked to have these diverse projects and many people and playing in creation, playing at creation.
Mm-hmm.
So what do you make of this, that these three are blossoming at the same time? Like, what do you think is going on there, really?
I'm not sure how to answer that question because, there's nothing going on. It's just that you've planted these seeds. It's like when you plant a garden, right? You plant all these seeds, and especially if you've got like great soil and the right amount of rain and sun, everything comes up, right? And it comes up at the same time. And so you go and you deal with that. And you do have to, remove some of the seeds, the seedlings that you planted, to give the other things space. So really that's what's happening, is that the projects that I've initiated are coming to fruition, and it's great. And so now I have to look at, okay, well, how do I do this? One of the things I'm learning is, okay, John, start working on the business rather than in the business. When you're in and you think you have to do everything yourself, it becomes overwhelming. If you back off a little bit, you go, oh, okay, so here's my tomato plants growing. I don't need to be the sun and the water and the fertilizer and everything else. I just manage it, right? Same with with the cucumber plants. When we planted them, I got them from my neighbor, and they were tiny little things. I got these are never gonna grow, And then all of a sudden, it seems like a couple of weeks later, they're just going wild, and we're getting these cucumbers. And Marie's saying, more cucumbers. It's just an abundance, and I can see consciousness going, wow, way to go, John. Here's some more stuff. What else would you like to have? The more you enjoy it, the more you'll get to enjoy. And that choice of, yeah, this is really cool. Let's really savor this. So my purpose, in fact, is to savor life's experiences. And that's the experience I want for everybody else. So PlayAtCreation's purpose is to have others savor those experiences. Okay. And that, I don't know if you cook, she cooks when the people at the table go, oh, this is so good, and they're just savoring it. And that brings joy, right? And so this whole idea of just, yeah, let's enjoy this place that we have, this earth. I've been saying to people, now is the best time to be alive. There are so many huge problems to solve, and we get to solve them. We get to figure out, how do we deal with this or that or the other thing, and shape the way the world's going to be in the next little while, in our little corners of the world. I mean, there are some people who want to shape the world. I'm not one of those people. I'm looking at my little corner of the world. How do I make this a really enjoyable place to be for the people around me?
So how do you approach
Did I answer
that?
your question?
Yeah, it was a
Okay.
it was a very broad question. You couldn't give me a wrong answer to it, honestly. I'm just curious. So I'm wondering, because I love hearing that approach. It's actually very regenerative, which is something new. The regenerative systems thinking has come into my life of late. And one of the foundational elements of a regenerative thinking is that every problem or challenge is an opportunity. And I'm kind of hearing that in what you're saying. Like, there are all these, like, oh, it's so wonderful to be alive right now. There are all these great problems to solve. So how do you help others to savor the experience of problems and challenges? What does that look like to you?
Well, it's in the name. It's in the name. Play at creation. It's shifting your attitude about who you are, first of all, and we can get into that. It gets pretty deep, and why you are here. A lot of people who achieve stuff do so because they think because it's the creature, the human animal, trying to be the alpha male or whatever. And you think you have to accomplish. You think your purpose here is to accomplish things, to make stuff happen or whatever, because you need to show others how great you are, how great you can be. Look at all the stuff that I've done, rather than just and enjoying the journey, at the surprises that show up, the problems that show up, as in fact surprises, like, oh, that's interesting. I expected this to happen and that happened. Doesn't taste so good, but how do we deal with that? Okay, this whole idea of a game, of experiment, thinking this is going to happen and then it not going, and you go, oh, okay, I don't like this. I'm going to go this way a little bit more. So it really is resetting what people think they are. And this is when we start getting into the deep stuff.
This, John, it's only one of my very favorite questions. Who am I? So let's go there, please. So what does that mean to you?
Okay.
Resetting who we think we are. Who are we? What are we?
Okay. What is probably the better question. So back from high school days, I started reading a lot of near-death experience stories. And in fact, this is where PlayAtCreation came from. So reading those stories, most of them have the same narrative. When the body dies, consciousness goes on, and you experience unconditional love. Everything is more vibrant. You know the answers to all the questions. So you go, oh, okay. And because as technology has advanced, we are able to revive more and more people. So you get more and more of these stories. But it used to happen way back as well. Way back, meaning in centuries back. Now you're hearing more of these. So I asked myself the question, what if this is the way things really work? Meaning, just as gravity is, when the body dies, consciousness goes back home. It's like a drop going back to the ocean. So I go, okay, so what if that is the way things work? Which prompted the second question was, if that is the way things work, why do we come here? If you are already in paradise, you're in unconditional love, you know the answers to all the questions, you can be, do, have, whatever. Why do you come here? And then the answer to that was to play. Instantly. Yeah, you come here to play. And so I go, well, that's strange. And why is that? So I said, well, so this prompted the second set of questions was, why is it this way? And I said, okay, the answer to that was, suppose consciousness is. The universe existed, consciousness is. And consciousness, being all that there is, gets bored. Goes, like a 2-year-old, I'll make a game board, which we spoke about before. The universe is that game board. And I will go into the game board and I will play. I'll forget who I really am. I'm going to go in there. We, in here on the game board, provide the one thing that consciousness cannot provide by itself, having to overcome limitation. And every game that we invent is about overcoming some kind of limitation, whether it's two teams playing rugby or football or climbing a mountain. You're always trying to overcome some kind of a limitation, and that is the game. So when I talk about dealing with surprises or things that don't go well, that's part of it. That's what makes it all interesting. Imagine if you came here and you knew everything was going to work out. Well, I do actually. I'll come back to that. And everything went exactly as you wanted. It would be so boring. It's like, when you go to the beach and you can sit there for maybe even a week. I don't know. That maybe might be too long. But then you want to do something else. People retire, business owners will retire, and within 3 weeks or 3 months, they go, I got to find something to do. This is nuts. I can't just sit still. And I'm that way. I mean, that's why I have these 3 things happening at the same time. And I'm very consciously saying, okay, no, don't take anything else on until you take this off your plate. So anyway, who we are, what we are, the way I see it, is we are sparks of that one consciousness. Here to play, to experience physicality, to experience limitation. Why? Just for the enjoyment, just to play. There is, if you think about it, if the answers are all known, and there's nothing to learn. There's no karma to pay. There's no duties that we have. It's just to come and play. And I can almost picture, I don't know if you have kids or not, but I can almost picture consciousness going, just enjoying the child at play and going, that is so cool. I really love that. So that's who and what we are. And that's why play at creation is.
Mm. Ah, and it's also creation at play, or consciousness at play. If
Consciousness
you're going to
at play.
express it that way.
That's what it is. Yeah.
The feeling that I have when I am most in touch with that, I can't say personally that I understand really anything about purpose and why I'm here. I have my ways of looking at it very akin to what you're sharing, right? But what I feel when I feel most in touch with that is, it's funny to use the word consciousness for this. I'll try it on and we'll see how it sounds. But like that, even in the midst of, maybe even especially in the midst of my human drama, the fuss that I make over things, like when I'm really connected underneath that, it's like consciousness is laughing. It is still, that is the play too. And I don't live in that. Believe me, I do not live in that every day. Sometimes I'm kicking and screaming like any good little 2-year-old. I'm just throwing my own fits over why things aren't going my way. But knowing that and actually feeling that as truth has a huge impact on the way I show up with things and how I navigate the ups and downs of those challenges and problems and obstacles. And most of them, honestly, are between my ears. They're the ones that I'm inventing. There is no problem in an obstacle. Like if you look at your creation as a plant that is, you're tending to a plant and, it doesn't rain enough. Well, is that a problem that it didn't rain? I mean, we can make it up as one, but what we do is we show up with it and you go, oh, well, I think I'm going to water it.
Yeah.
And I can. Like,
Yeah.
and you do that. And it's not a problem that we need to freak out over. And yet, so guilty of this every day, freaking out over things that don't go the way I want them to go, instead of showing up with it as a part of the game. So when I'm at my best, I show up with it as a game, and man, is life more fun.
It is. Yep. Yep. I think of being able to talk with two senses of I. There's the big I, which is consciousness, and there's the little I, which is the avatar. And I see us as avatars. Like all that we've been doing up until now is you create the avatar that is going to play this game. And so then I ask people, I say, be the author of the story that you want the avatar to experience. And when the little I is having its drama, you can bump up to the big I and say, oh, okay, so little I is having a little pissy fit or whatever. How do I help little I have a better experience? And so part of the invitation is to have people be the author of the story. And in fact, I had at one point thought of, and this is one thing that I put aside, of creating a game, right? Where all of us can be both the big I and the little I. And we write stories about what is little I going to experience 5 years from now or 4 years from now, right? And the game is for big I to play this avatar. What would you have the avatar do so that in 5 years they could experience the story that you want them to experience? And I mean, this is a way I look at life as well. Like my kids like playing video games and so on. Well, what we are playing is a video game at the first level. The other ones that you find on computers and stuff is down a little bit, down the second level. So that's another way of looking at this experience that we're having. And some people talk about, are we in a simulation? Is all of this a simulation? And go, well, it doesn't matter whether it is or not. Here's how we can play it. Here's how we can see it. So this is one way of envisaging what it is that we are going through. And you're right. I mean, when you can back off to the author I, the consciousness I, nothing really matters, in the sense that you do go on. Everything that happens now is just another story. And in consciousness, there is no time. Everything is happening at the same time. Time is something in space-time, right? In physicality. And so we have, yesterday, today, tomorrow kind of thing. Back home, if it's all happening at the same time, then what you experienced 2 centuries ago and what you will experience 2 centuries hence and now are all happening at the same time. So I have no idea how all that stuff works. I've chosen to stay as an infant, as a babe in understanding and just experience it. There are other people who are trying to figure all this stuff out, and I go, well, you go and do that. I'll find out when I get back home.
So, John, with all of the infinite games that consciousness could play through you, how do you know what games you want to play and say yes to?
Wow. What would you like to do? I mean, you don't have to pick the best game, right? what would you like to experience? In fact, the dream course in the Prosperous Modern Elder program is for, we have people look back at what they've experienced already, and what parts of those things they would like to have more of, what other things they've seen and they would like to experience, and then from melding those together, what's enough? From melding those things together to say, okay, I want to have these things going forward. I want to experience these things. If I do so, I will say that this was a well-lived turn. And really, I mean, I think that question comes from, how do you pick the best things for you? And really, it's like, no, it's, what would I like? It's, do I want Chinese tonight, or do I want, curry and rice? Do I want Indian sweets, or do I want cheesecake? It's at different times you'll have different choices. You can tell I like food. I mean, Indian sweets are the greatest.
I think part of the, oh, sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt. Continue.
No, I don't know. I don't know. I was going to check with you to see if that answered your question.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. I ask because, so in what I do, I help people to really create a business that feels like play, that is play for them. And many times they come in, they're coming to me for that because it doesn't feel like fun. Mm-hmm. And they don't know why.
Yeah.
And when presented with the question of what do you want, many people, at least at first, have trouble finding an answer to that. And I think a part of it is exactly what you're suggesting, that this is a better thing for me to choose, or I have an obligation to choose this. I should choose this thing. Because the people I see are often change makers and helpers in some way. And so, oh, but I should do this because there's so many people in need. And I have a dear friend who I think about because she's done some of that comparison thinking with herself and other people. She's friends with a lot of women in particular with great ambition. And she thinks, oh, I should be like that. I should want to change the world in this way. She's like, but Stephanie, all I really want to do is sing and play guitar and dance and work in my garden. And I'm like, yes, 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 and yes.
Yep.
Yes, yes. Like that is not any lesser than the quote unquote big dreams that people have for changing the world. And in fact, I said to her, I think it does more for the world, for the rest of us, for all of us in it, for you to be joyfully tending your garden than to be on stage somewhere talking about climate change. I don't know. For her, anyway, that is true. Mm-hmm. And that was kind of what's behind that question a bit of like, so how do you know?
It's like saying to the child, so this is the big I saying to the little I, you don't have to do anything. The only thing I would like for you to do is to just enjoy this. How do you want to enjoy it? You have no obligation. You don't have to teach anybody anything. The world is going to go the way the world goes. And when this world fries up in a cinder because the sun has expanded, you'll still be playing somewhere else. What do you want to do? What would you like to have now? And that's all big I, want of you. I think the world gets into trouble because there are too many people who think they have the answer and want to impose the answer on everybody else. That's where all our problems come from. And, they are trying to do good as far as they see it. Their goodness, their idea of what is good is different than somebody else's idea of what's good. And if they are so adamant that, no, this is the only way to be, and so are the other ones, that's where you get the conflict. Rather than saying, we just, we want to raise our families and play with our friends and play music. Just if everybody would go do that. In fact, that's one of the things we're trying to do with Youth West. Our little tagline is building community through music. And where we want to go next, and the reason we're doing some of the stuff we're doing, is we want to have people around the world share music and community through this little instrument, ukulele, which is so easy to pick up. Because I would love to be able to take people from Calgary, from Alberta, for instance, to Portugal, perhaps. Right? And we go to a festival there. We actually had a fellow from Danilo from Basilicata in Italy who came out to the 2019 festival to share what they are doing in Basilicata. He was using music festivals to share the culture and the economy of that region. And so one of the things we said, oh yeah, we should take a group of people from here to southern Italy. COVID happened, we couldn't do that, but eventually we will be able to do that kind of thing. So yeah, go tend your little corner of Eden and be happy doing that. I mean, that's the best thing that you can do for the world.
Yeah, I love that. So, John,
I'm just keeping an eye on the time.
Yeah,
no, you need.
I want to ask you what message you would most like people to hear. I mean, you've already been probably sharing it, but if there's anything else, that if there was one thing you wish people knew about creating their lives, what would that be?
Well, I mean, this takes some belief, but I mean, there are enough scouts who have experienced it already to know who you really are, what you really are. You, and I'm looking now at you, Stephanie, you are a spark of consciousness that is using the human body, which I see as Stephanie, to experience physicality. Okay, so the being that you are on this turn is consciousness with the human creature experiencing stuff going on here. The human part will die. The consciousness part will go on and have another turn as something else. Maybe not on Earth, maybe someplace else. I mean, do you realize how huge the universe is? It's huge. So much opportunity. Remember that you do go on. That's it. And the reason you're here is just to play.
Oh, well, thank you, John. And if people would like to learn more about you and your playful ventures, where is the best place for them to go? I will, of course, provide links and things in the description.
Sure. Probably the best way to do that is John at PlayAtCreation.com. And then we can figure out what they want to play at. Like, for instance, your friend, like if she wants to play music, she should really become part of U West. We meet every Saturday and we play there and play, sing, you know. I would love for people to pick up the ukulele just because it's fun to play. Anyway, John at PlayAtCreation is probably the best way to reach me.
Beautiful. Thank you so much, John. This has been a great pleasure.
I want to thank you, Stephanie. I mean, my joy is in meeting like-minded folk, people who are there already and get it, and we can talk about this stuff, and it feels good. I mean, I will see you back home, but maybe I'll see you before we get back home.
Yeah, cool.
Thanks so much for joining me for today's Wildspire conversation. If you'd like to receive a weekly Wildspire email from me filled with inspiring stories on marketing experiments, tips for playing your way to impact and income without the hustle and hype, insights from my spiritual business journey, and more, go to theawakenedbusiness.com/Wildspire. Until next time, may you know yourself as the gorgeous wild creation you are.